You're watching It's Life Live with your hosts, Juan Lee and Oliver Marcel. Come join us for enriching, enlightening, encouraging, and thought-provoking conversation. Let's go.
Hello, hello, hello. What's up, Oliver?
What's up? What's going on? I'm trying to get my sound here just echoing and doing all kind of foolishness, but we're good. We're good.
I hear you. I was actually trying to see if I'm up on LinkedIn because we had another one of those situations where it was up. I put it on. It's on there twice, and I think it has to do with the fact that Clear Journey's LinkedIn page and my personal LinkedIn page, StreamYard won't allow me to go LinkedIn live.
Oh, really?
If I don't have enough connections. I don't
Oh,
have
for the
enough.
other page. Got you. Yep. I think it's, what is it? I forgot.
150.
150. Okay.
You have to have 150. And so anybody who's listening can hear me. Go to clearjourney.org and connect with it. Connect with clearjourney.org so that we can alleviate this problem, because I tell you, it really makes it difficult for me. But I'm going to be, until we get connections, and I think I'll probably start reaching out to people from Clear Journey and see if I can build that connection up a little bit. Anyway, hello, everybody. Welcome to It's Life Live. I'm Juan Lee, and that's Oliver Marcel there.
Indeed.
Let me tell you a little bit about Clear Journey and what we're here and all about. Clear Journey is a nonprofit, 501c3. And what we do is we provide education and resources for people that are having challenging situations in life. No matter what their situations are, we cover a myriad of topics, and that goes from finances to relationships to health, to careers, self-improvement, all those aspects. And we're here to help you navigate life better. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so. We really appreciate that. That will help us. And also, like we were talking about earlier, LinkedIn, or you can go to Clear Journey's YouTube channel and register or subscribe. That would be very helpful. We've been doing a lot already, Oliver. So.
Yeah, it feels like we already had a show off air.
Yeah. But I hope everybody from LinkedIn is seeing this. And I put LinkedIn up as under my profile. And so I was wondering if it would come up under me. There it is, under my profile. So you can find me under my profile if you're looking for me. I'm there. All righty. So tonight, is there anything else that I needed to say before we get started?
No, I think that's it. I think we can jump in.
All right. We are going to be talking about life, and it's, are you who you want to be? That's the question. Are you who you want to be? What's your thought? What do you think, Oliver? Are most of us who we want to be?
That's a good question. I would say that many of us are on the road to being who we want to be. I think there are, and listen, there are probably a lot of different types of individuals, right? You probably have your individuals who are like, yes, I am who I want to be, 100%. On one end of the spectrum, you have those on the other end of the spectrum who are like, no, I'm nowhere near who I want to be. And then in between, you have these pockets of individuals who have evolved in their thinking to understand that, hey, I'm not where I want to be, but I'm not where I was. I'm on this journey. I understand, that as I learn more about myself and as I make certain decisions and as I educate myself and navigate this thing called life, that I am becoming who I want to be. So I think there's people who fit into all different categories. Now, if you want where I stand, Oliver
Well,
Marcel.
but I mean, you made some very interesting points there, to be honest with you, because
Hmm.
um, you painted a big, broad perspective, a big span of whether or not people identify with that question or not.
Hmm.
And I'm of the mindset that that journey that you just, or that spectrum that you just gave,
Hmm.
is dependent upon you knowing who you are. So you
Hmm.
navigate that journey. Um, and I think many of us, because when you have that kind of a spectrum,
Hmm.
you, when do you get there? When do you arrive? If that's the spectrum that we're talking about. Yeah, I'm not where I want to be. No, because you are the issue. I'm talking about you, me.
Hmm.
Are you who you want to be in spite of your journey?
Mm.
In spite of your journey. Because who you are going, you're going to be on that journey. You're on that journey.
Hmm.
And if you don't know who you are, that journey is going to be dictated based on who you are, or who you don't know that you are.
I I could see that. I So this is not necessarily me disagreeing. I think it's just me maybe saying it in a different way.
Okay.
I could see that. I believe though that many of us evaluate we evaluate where we are on our journey based on who we want to be, not necessarily based on who we are. We sometimes, and it's not so much, I don't know if it's so much that we don't know who we are, or we may know who we are, but our focus is so much on who we want to be that every step of that journey now is evaluated against how close we are getting to who we want to be, as opposed to embracing who we are at in that leg of the journey. Does that make sense? So like let's say for example, just to put it in layman's terms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say for example, who I want to be is a millionaire, right? That's something that everybody can kind of visualize,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
everything that goes along with being a millionaire.
Mm-hmm.
Right now on this leg of the journey, you know, a few years into my quest to become a millionaire, I'm struggling financially. So I'm not necessarily focusing too much on who I am right now financially, because I'm consistently evaluating this space and time against how far or close I am to becoming a millionaire. I think some people don't really look at the here and now as it relates to who they want to be.
This is good. This is really good. Um, because that's interesting, because you've equated being with a destination.
Hmm.
And what I'm suggesting is being is right now, not the destination. Because if you say, I want to be a millionaire,
Hmm.
that means that you are not a millionaire.
Hmm.
And what I'm suggesting is that today is your being. And if you maximize your being today, when you get to being a millionaire, you will be the same person that you are today when you get there.
Okay.
And I don't mean it to say that you won't grow in the process of getting there,
Hmm.
but the fundamentals of who you are won't change.
Okay.
the fundamentals of who you are. And I guess that's the real conversation here is in the fundamentals. Are you who you want to be has to do with, are you okay with who you are?
Hmm.
You know,
Right.
and there are some things that will give us some clues as to whether or not we are okay with who we are right now.
Hmm.
And some of the things we're going to talk about has to do with, there are signs that we might not be who we really want to be. For instance, we consistently find ourselves dissatisfied.
Okay. Okay.
Dissatisfied, meaning we are not, we're nowhere near content. And I think when we, for instance, in that spectrum that you were talking about earlier,
Hmm.
it always, see, and this is the point I guess is very important, is that this is not about growth. This is about how you grow.
Got you.
It's about how you grow. And see, if you're dissatisfied, and it's not, and let me put a caveat there. Being dissatisfied can be the motivation,
Hmm.
but that you can't continually be dissatisfied.
Yeah. Yeah. Continually being dissatisfied, I think, speaks to a fundamental uh, deficiency,
That's a good way of saying it.
whether it be in gratitude, whether it be in attitude, whether it be in outlook or perspective. Um, there's some gaps there. If you're
Yeah,
just constantly dissatisfied.
yeah. I mean, and that's the point I'm saying, is that everything seems to be always working against you.
Hmm.
That's a sign.
Hmm.
And I think sometimes we overlook the signs in pursuit of something else.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And here we are getting slapped in front of our, getting slapped around right here where we are, but we like, but I'm gonna take this because of where I'm trying to get to, and the reason you can't get there is because you're getting slapped around right here. Does that resonate?
Yeah, yeah, and yes, it does. It does. So, I'm tracking where you're going with this in terms of where are we where we want to be in terms of who we are at our core.
Yeah.
Um, and there are I can see instances. I'll even speak for myself. I won't even talk about anybody else, but I can see instances where I didn't put as much importance on who I was at a particular moment because in my mind I was in pursuit of something else, a destination that I felt like would help align the internal things that I probably should have been working on in the moment. It's almost like when I get XYZ, I'll be happy kind of
Mm-hmm.
attitude, right?
Mm-hmm.
When in essence, I could be happy now. If I worked on being happy now, I could be happy now, right? So I see. I'm tracking where you're going.
Yeah. I mean, because regardless as to what you have,
Hmm.
our who we are, we carry it around with us all the time.
Hmm.
And when we getting external resistance to who we really are, and that's where I'm asking the question, are we who we want to be? And some of the signs are, if we're getting resistance to who we really are, then maybe there's some change, because here's ultimately what we're after. We're ultimately after internal change.
Mhm.
I mean, a destination is not going to ultimately change you on the inside. It's not going to change me on the inside. But if I change on the inside, the destination will only be an indication of what's on the inside.
Yeah, I agree with that. The
In,
destination is it enhances what's on the inside.
Instead of the destination trying to appease the inside.
It, unpack that.
See, if I want to be a millionaire,
Hmm.
what is being a millionaire going to do that you can't do right now, in the sense of your who you are? What's your purpose, what it is that you really see? It really goes to the millionaire. A millionaire without the right motivation, or without the right motivation. So
Hmm.
instance, a person who wins a lottery don't know how to hold on to a money. They don't know how to make the money, so
Hmm.
holding it is going to be a challenge.
Hmm.
So if they had it, they would probably blow it.
Hmm.
Instead of, what would be the motivation for being a millionaire? That comes from on the inside.
Yeah.
And if it's just because I want to be a millionaire, but what's the motivation for being a millionaire? Because ultimately, that's what's going to continue to hold you down, as it relates to the. Remember, we talk about the journey. It's
Hmm.
not the destination. If I want to be something that I am not,
Hmm.
then I would venture to say that I'm about a destination and not the journey.
Okay.
I can grow. As I grow, I can. I will always be who I am, in pursuit of my potential, in pursuit of my potential. And if my potential ends up being a millionaire, I'm all good. But if it doesn't end up being a millionaire, I'm still all good.
Mhm. Yeah, you're talking about character development in holistically, right? The stuff that's going to carry you through every phase and stage of the journey of life and allow you to be consistent, I think is a good word in your in the way you navigate.
Well, ultimately, that's what we're talking about, life.
Mm.
We're talking about how do we navigate this thing.
Mhm.
And these are the little subtleties that I think we sometimes avoid, or not avoid, we don't see them.
Mhm.
We miss them, because it's very easy for us to be focused on a destination rather than preparing or developing yourself in the moment.
Mhm.
And the moment dictates the journey, and where that journey ends up at, it's based on your preparation.
Yeah. Let me catch some comments that I missed. Cameron's in the comments. Shout out to Cameron who's here. Cameron said, "Are you making a distinction between dissatisfaction and something else, or are you exploring differences in how a sense of dissatisfaction is expressed, words and actions?" So I think Cameron, we might have, because I missed this comment and I apologize. We probably answered that question just based on uh, my perspective, and then Juan, you giving what your perspective was around what you're thinking when you're talking about who we are based on who we want to be from a character perspective, right? I did a very tangible A to B kind of scenario,
Hmm.
right? What I'm hearing you say, Juan, is that it doesn't matter what the A to B scenario is. The real question is, are you going to be consistent, or first of all, do you know who you are? Number one.
Well, that was the question.
Right. Do you know who you are is the question. And do you know where you want to be in terms of your level of consistency, regardless of what the A to B scenario is, regardless of whether there is dissatisfaction or not? What you're saying, though, is that if somebody is consistently dissatisfied, that's an
That's a sign.
indicator that they are not who they want to be.
Yeah, it's a sign that you're not who you are. I mean, because there's a conflict there. That's
Right.
what that is. That's a conflict. And when you run into that conflict over and over again, we're looking for somebody externally to change, something to externally change,
Hmm.
and it's actually you the reason we have to change.
Yeah.
That's the gist of that.
Got you.
The next one is a lack of passion or excitement.
Well, before you get into that, let me get a Larry's comment too as well. Larry is in the comments as well. Shout out to Larry. What about the millionaire mindset? And I think that speaks to just, you can define that several different ways, but I'm just going to take liberty to be like, okay, I'm not a millionaire now, right? But just what you said, right? If I'm developing my character in such a way that when that happens, I'm going to be good, or if it doesn't happen, I'm still going to be good.
Absolutely.
Which you
That's
could
the
say is
gist.
the millionaire mindset.
Well, but the question of $1 million mindset, a millionaire mindset, that's something that's a created mindset. Because here's the point: most millionaires don't start off saying, I'm gonna be a millionaire. That's
Mhm,
not their that's not someone who's creative enough to be a millionaire, like a
mhm,
Warren Buffett. When Warren
mhm,
Buffett was growing up, Warren Buffett didn't say, he probably didn't say, I want to grow up and be a millionaire. He was about solving a problem. And if you solve a problem, that'll come to it. That's a that's a
that's
that's
part
a
of it.
that's a benefit of solving the
Yeah,
problem.
yeah, it's a byproduct.
It's a
Yeah,
byproduct.
yeah,
But if you don't love what it is that you're doing on the inside enough to put in what it takes to solve that problem,
mhm,
you don't got to worry about being a millionaire,
mhm,
because you're probably never going to get there. Now, in this day and age, you have this now mindset of a millionaire mindset that is basically, I want to be a millionaire without a love for solving a problem.
yeah. That's the other side. That's the other side of the mindset piece, where it's just like, hey, I'm going to think it. I'm going to think it long enough, and I'm gonna be it. But you didn't put any work in. Yeah, that's a
But
whole nother conversation.
well, but it connects to this understanding of, when you know who you are,
Hmm.
you're not chasing something that somebody else has presented to you without the desire to solve a problem, because that's
Hmm.
all business is.
Yeah.
That's all this process is all about, is solving problems. If you ain't got a problem, you can't become a millionaire. It's not solving no problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to answer a question, solve a problem, and the better you can solve that problem, the results will come out that you'll end up being probably a millionaire, or in Warren Buffett's case, a billionaire.
Yeah. Cameron brings up a good point. In other words, all frustration comes from unmet expectations. If we are consistently frustrated, maybe we should re examine our expectations.
And where our expectations come from, internal. We gain expectations, and most times they are unrealistic if they're unsubstantiated, based on you being able to determine what that end result is going to be. When we begin to look for other people to meet our expectations, you're gonna end up missing because you don't have any control over that. Again, this thing called life is ultimately about where we can have control,
Yeah.
how we can navigate, and that's what it's all about. So the second part is lacking of excitement. You know, when we don't aren't enthusiastic, when we're not engaged
Hmm.
in this experience called life, um, we find ourselves, no passion. And this is interesting because if we don't have any passion, that goes back to being able to solve a problem.
Hmm.
We've got to have a motivation to be able to want to do something, and without it, we find ourselves, we don't know anything, we don't know who we are, we don't stand for anything. That's
Yeah. And that's a that's an interesting one because you know you'll have people that will argue that, okay, I'm playing devil's advocate here,
Go right ahead.
but you will have people that will argue this,
Mm-hmm.
that their level of excitement is in alignment with the trajectory that their life journey is on, right? So if there are a ton of bad things happening and there are a ton of disappointments and there's just this season of just mayhem, right?
Mm-hmm.
That it will have an effect on your level of excitement.
Mm-hmm.
And to use my words that I used with somebody yesterday, I think it was yesterday or Monday, it might have been. It was just like my energy's low. I was at a meeting Monday and I was just like, listen, I got to be honest, my energy's low, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and that coming off the heels of what was kind of a very tumultuous time period mentally, right?
Mm-hmm.
The flip side of that devil's advocate coin is that you also have the school of thought, which we would prefer in a perfect world to subscribe to, is my level of excitement should not be, um, it should not be influenced by whatever's happening around me.
True. True. But ultimately, what we're looking to do is to influence those things that are around us. But if we're being negatively infected, or if our external environment or situations are influencing our excitement, because
Hmm.
here's the point. If you just look back on what we were just talking about, solving a problem, if externally we are seeing things that could possibly impact our excitement, they should be the things that give us excitement, because it gives us something to solve. It gives us an opportunity to solve something, because if there's turmoil around us, that's a sign that there's something that needs to be fixed. And especially if I can see it, I can surely understand it because I'm experiencing it. And who else better to have an experience or have an opportunity to fix something that's not currently engaged in it? Now, granted, you're going to have to be able to do some work to be able to do that, but exposure to it is the first thing of recognizing that something's wrong.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I'm with you, and I'm gonna throw this question out that you can answer that later on because I know you have some other ones that you want to share. The question will become, and this is the $6 million question for later on, is what steps does a person take? Because essentially what you're talking about in the way of character development takes some intention. and it takes some level of work,
Hmm.
and it takes some level of a reset or a redefinition, if you will, of a person's perspective around all of this.
Hmm.
So the $6 million question for later on is, what are the steps that someone takes to now put themselves in a position to shift that mindset?
Now, because it's 7:30 and we're on number two, um, let's just assume that the remaining things that we're going to talk about, and what I will do is, instead of going through them, we're going to touch on them, and I'm just going to touch on them, and then we're going to get to the answers, because the answer is the bigger issue. It's
Mm,
how do you change that and get the reset, as you say,
mhm,
um, is the real issue. But some of the other things that are signs that
mhm,
you might be having you challenges to find of knowing who you are
mhm.
is that you're envious and resentment,
Okay.
living by others' expectations, and we talked about
Yep.
expectations
Cameron talked
earlier.
about that. Yep.
Mhm. Lost a sense of identity, and
Mm,
all of these things are all of these things are basically saying you have lost control. You are not in control at all. um you are constantly fatigued and stressed, basically, again, out of control, lack of personal goals. We just swinging it, we just winging it,
mm,
you know by the seat of our pants. um this is one that really is probably more common. Avoidance behaviors.
mhm,
We do things to avoid confrontation, or to address things.
mhm,
We're avoidance, and there are a multitude of things that we can do to avoid things. Anything that will not allow us to be confrontational. you know um Inauthentic in relationships. In other words, we're in relationships and we're not our real self. We're not being authentic.
mhm,
We are putting on a show, an act,
mhm,
and we recognize that that's what we're doing. That's the critical one. There is that, for the most part, when we don't have this, we don't know who we are. We are basically in a relationships, and we're putting on a show.
mm,
And that one's a difficult one, because we don't even know we putting on a show. um and the last one is that we longing for change, and that's the flip side of that one on the relationship, is that we basically sick and tired of being sick and tired.
mhm,
We are basically sick and tired of being sick and tired, and it's at that point that we are searching for something better.
mm,
Now, that's the list of the how we can find that we're lacking. And then, as you said, how do you get the reset? How did you hit the reset button? And this is where the work goes in, but it has to start on the inside.
mhm,
We really have to do some introspection. We've got to begin to identify. I tell you, one of the things that early on in my life, it was the pivotal point in my life and my journey,
mhm,
is when I asked myself, and I really wanted to know, who am I? I had to do some introspection.
mhm,
Who am I? What am I all about? What am I stand for? Because so many times we will adjust to whatever the circumstances are. And as a result, we don't put boundaries down. we
mhm,
don't we don't put anything to define who we are, because those boundaries, as well as keeps us out of trouble, it also defines us.
mhm,
And that's where we got to begin to do the introspection. And that introspection is the beginning, because the next one is that we got to seek feedback from others that we value, because in many cases they see us in a way that we don't see ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I used to do in when I was working is that I would ask my people that I would supervise, I was like, I want you to tell me what you think about me. It would blow people's mind, especially as a subordinate. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
be like, no, I want your real serious, I want your serious feedback. I want you to tell me about me. I
Mm-hmm.
want you to tell me what you see, because how I present myself to you is going to be the way you perceive me.
Mm-hmm.
And I need you to tell me something, because guess what? I can't see me, but you can see me. Now, most of the time, it was pretty favorable, but it wasn't, those weren't the ones that I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking for those people to be honest with me and tell you, um, it was interesting because in many of the cases, they told me I was unrealistic.
Mm. Okay.
They would tell me I was unrealistic. And I was like, well, how about this? You say unrealistic and I say consistent. Is that, could you see a difference there? Because they wanted me to change,
Mm-hmm.
to suit them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Because if I change for you, that means I gotta
You
change for
gotta do it for
somebody
everybody
else.
else. That's right.
No, I'm
That's
gonna
right.
be consistent. But they be like, well, you ain't fair. No, that is what fair is not being is being consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And so get feedback from other people that see you in a different way. Set, like I said, set realistic goals. And this is a real good one, because the only way you can set realistic goals is that you understand what you have to offer, what your abilities are, what your skill set is. You
Mm-hmm.
have to be brutally honest with yourself when you're setting these goals.
I would agree with that because
Yeah.
that can be a slippery slope to right back to disappointment and resentment.
Yeah.
Setting unrealistic goals, setting goals that are in alignment with
You're
somebody else's idea of who you are, or something that you've bought into that you don't necessarily, you haven't resolved in your mind as truth.
your values
Yeah.
have to align with your values, and these goals has to be something that's attainable, that you have the control over. They
Hmm.
start small and you build on them,
Yep.
but then that's what you begin to learn who you are based on those experiences.
Hmm.
um Here's the no one is, and as you recognize that you don't have the skill, then you learn the skill. Be willing to learn new skills, take on courses, attend workshops, learn things, volunteer if
Mm-hmm.
necessary. Um, Prioritize, and this is a very good one. This is might be something that you and I talked about earlier as it relates to self-care.
Hmm. Yeah.
Realize that there is a need for self-care, and not allow somebody else to dictate to you your self-care.
Hmm.
You've got to be that very astute to understand and recognize, okay, when it's time for you to take a break,
Hmm.
and to understand that it's okay to take a break, and to be mindful of the need to take a break.
Yeah.
um there's a couple more. You want to put something in?
Well, I just want to say that it's important to also understand that this is a process, right? And so some of this you may master, for lack of a better word, through trial and error, right? So you may attempt to do something and it doesn't work out the way you thought it was going to. It doesn't produce the results you thought it was going to. That is not a reason to lay down that goal. That is not a reason to uh, devalue what you thought was once important. It's just, you just got to go back to the drawing board and you just got to keep moving and do with that. So I think it's important to say that as well, because for those of us who may not have done this in the past, may not have recognized the importance of doing this in the past. It may not just happen organically, and it may not happen as quickly as we want it to. And so I really wanted to just kind of throw that in there,
I
you
think
know.
that I think that's important to recognize that all of these things that we're sharing right here, I'm sharing right here, has to do with a process.
Hmm.
This is by no means a silver bullet, and it's all going to work exactly. That's why, the process of setting realistic goals, and the key there is realistic, is that the big thing is that you've got to be honest with yourself.
Hmm.
That's the real work right there, is because if you're not honest with yourself, you're never going to set realistic goals.
Yeah, and I watched a TED talk recently where the person was talking about the fact that if you, and this is debatable, but I understand where he's coming from. If you focus on your goals, you will not achieve them. Now, what the standpoint he was coming from is that, and I'm saying all this to make a point. The
Mhm.
standpoint he was coming from is that many people create a goal, and because they are because they obsess about the end result, they don't do what they need to do on the journey. And because they don't do what they need to do on the journey, doesn't matter how much they obsess about the end result, they don't get there. And so I'm saying that to say, as you're setting these realistic goals, don't make the mistake of evaluating where you currently are against the outcome, because if because you can be very easily disappointed, and that disappointment could deter your progress, which then now keeps you from reaching that goal, whether it was realistic or not, because of what you're talking about right now, because you're not working on who you are in the moment, and you're not accepting who you are in the moment, and you're not building on who you are in the moment.
And that's the honesty that you have to have.
Right.
That's the honesty that you have to have. And I think until you're able to have that, because that's a very good point, because see, you can be tenaciously doing the wrong thing.
Hmm.
And just because you're tenacious doesn't mean that you're going to get the outcome that you're desiring, if it's an unrealistic tenation, if that's a word. If you're being tenacious in doing something that's unrealistic. And that's where you've got to be honest with yourself, because you've got to be able to recognize that when you don't get the result after you've put the effort in and you've not got the result, it's not to give up, it's to reevaluate.
Hmm.
Okay. Maybe it's not about going up and making a left turn, it's going up and making a right turn.
Hmm.
And that's the difference. But you keep going up there making a right turn, thinking that the right turn is going to get you where you want to go. And all of a sudden you realize that it's a left turn that's going to get you where you want to go.
Hmm.
So it's not about just being tenacious, being that you're going to continue to do it, but it's the process of evaluating it as you're doing it, going, okay, I didn't make it. Let's go back and reevaluate. Don't do the same thing. I mean, we toy around with the old definition of crazy, almost repeating to doing the same thing, expecting a different result. That's gets you rolling around in a circle, getting nowhere.
Yeah.
So I agree with you 100%. The other ones that we have here is just, again, experiences and exploring things that you have not or otherwise been exposed to. In other words, do some new things.
Hmm.
What we're trying to do is to identify who we are. The thing about this is, Oliver, is that so many of us are in search of who we are,
Mm-hmm.
in search of who we are, instead of building in the moment
Yeah.
who we are. Because then you can build on who you are because it's intentional. You know that that's where I am, that's where I want to go, that's who I am. And guess what? As I build who I am, I'm not going to be the same person that I was yesterday.
Yeah.
And it's a day by day thing. So that's the thing. He says, now make your choices. Here we go again. Make them conscious. Be conscious of your choices. Make them about things that represent your own values.
Mm-hmm.
Again, those boundaries, so to speak. Don't be going along just to get along.
Yeah.
If you find yourself going in places that you don't need to be, and then when you get there, you're wondering how you got there or why you're there. Not how you got there, but why you're there. Establish, make, again, all of these are choices that every one of us has to make for ourselves. Nobody can do them for us. Embrace change and flexibility.
Yeah. That's a good one.
That's that's growth in and of itself.
Yeah. Tough one for a lot of people, but necessary.
Yeah, being flexible. I think the ability to be willing to engage or to be willing to accept something new. That's again another choice. Build a support system. Find people that are thinking like you think or want to think.
Mm-hmm.
That's people. These are not necessarily, and I would probably say in a lot of cases, they won't be people that are relatives. They won't be people that are
Mm.
in your family.
Yeah.
Um, it's unfortunate, but you've got to be able to find somebody that can support you in the way in which you want to identify, want to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important. And then the last one is be willing to reflect and reassess while on the journey.
That's a key one as well, because that's what's going to allow you to, um, one, that's going to allow you, if done correctly, will allow you to experience a sense of accomplishment along the way. You'll start to see certain benchmarks, if you will, that you meet and that you can celebrate. It will also, um, it will also be conducive to your growth in a way that allows you to be consistent in every area of your life, which is key, because you're going to be constantly growing. You're going to be constantly you're going to constantly find yourself in scenarios where you will need to pull from what you've already established as it relates to your character, and will also be stretched maybe to add and or take away things that will help to level you out and get you to where you want to be, or
And
who
to
you want to be.
at every point you will have the tools necessary to stand in your presence.
Yeah.
Stand in your presence no matter what the situation will be or is. You would have had built up the foundation that will allow you to stand in the moment where you are, regardless as to the circumstances or situations that you might find yourself in.
Yeah, man. This is good, man. This is good, for those of us who are want to be well-rounded. We want to be uh we want to have that level of character development and self-discovery that causes us to navigate life in a way that accentuates the positive in a way that opens the pathway for gratitude, in a way that embraces learning, in a way that uh, promotes service to humanity. Like you're talking about a well rounded individual that is confident in who they are, that is comfortable with who they are, and that is consistent. If you want to be that kind of person, you just got the formula tonight to be that kind of person. I, you know,
Look, here's
I,
the point.
I, I need to go back and watch this over again.
Look, here's the point. That's what Clear Journey is all about.
There it is.
Okay, that's what Clear Journey is about. It's about helping everybody be their very best self and navigate this thing called life to the best that they possibly can. Everybody is unique. Everybody is there, has a gift, has an ability, has something to offer.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got to be able to want to stand in it once we realize that we're unique.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes development. It takes preparation. It takes being able to be willing to accept the fact that growth is essential. It's about being prepared for tomorrow today.
Mm-hmm.
Getting prepared for tomorrow today. And understanding what we have today is not enough for tomorrow. Not enough for what we're going to be exposed to and experience tomorrow because we have no idea. It's going to be brand new.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got to be willing to understand that we've got to be better tomorrow than we are today.
Yeah.
And that takes work.
Yeah.
And it's not as though we don't enjoy the journey, though, as we go.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell you, man, there's nothing like growing. It's the example of life. It epitomizes what life is about. If it's growth.
Mm-hmm.
If there's no growth, there's really no life.
Wow.
And what we're talking about here is life. It's life live.
That's it.
It's what it's all about. We want everybody to be their very best.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to know a little bit more about Clear Journey, go over to clearjourney.org. We have some examples over there as it relates to every area that we talk about. And the thing about it is that no matter what area you go to, when you talk about character building is what you've talked about today is basically what we're talking about here, is that you take that character, you take who you are into every one of those areas,
Mm-hmm.
and you begin to be your very best self, being prepared for each of those areas in life because they're coming.
Yeah.
They're coming. Your finances, health, relationships, occupation, business, career, enjoyment, leisure,
Mm-hmm.
how to navigate all of those things, and then just our communities and our society in general, how we show up is going to be based on what we know about ourselves, how we view ourselves, how others view us. So
Yeah, that's good.
my
Oh,
box.
no, that's good. It's good information. And Clear Journey is the place to help you navigate uh,
Yeah.
life successfully.
Hey, Oliver, let people know where they can find you. We right up against it.
Listen, you can find me if you're a social media person right beside my name on the screen right there is where you can find me at Denali LLC everywhere on social media. If you're an email person, email me, Oliver at Denali.org. Denali.org is the website. Author, speaker, and coach in the relationship building and men's enrichment spaces, looking to do what's on my t-shirt. Help somebody gain some level of clarity before they do something, say something, become something, hang out with somebody, make a decision that could throw off the trajectory of their lives. I would love to have a conversation with you. Get in contact with me.
Hey, that's absolutely right. And he's a strategic partner of Clear Journey. So by all means, that's one of the areas where you have need in relationships. We want to be at Clear Journey, your resource for connections to people and resources like Oliver. I would like to thank Cameron and Aliri for being with us tonight also.
Indeed.
I appreciate them for being here. Um, if there is anyone who'd like to reach out and speak with me, you can reach me at info@clearjourney.org. Or you can go over to Clear Journey and you can find me over there also. But like I say all the time, we're here for you. We want you to be your very best. And we want to be able to help you navigate life successfully. And as I've said many times in the past, um, we can't change life, but we can help you navigate it. And that's what we want to do every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. So until then, we'll see you later.
Derek said, "What about me?" We didn't see you, Derek. Sorry about that. What
Derek,
about Derek? Shout out to Derek. Derek's in the comments.
Derek, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being here. And look, for any other people who didn't make a comment in the comments, we thank you for being here and we look forward to you joining us again next week. Same time, 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. See you then.
Later.